studying the subject of Planet X and the Nemesis system for about 10 years now. And wow, we have got incredible things appearing in the sky on a regular basis that we never used to see, even just 5 years ago. The entity moving through our space that we refer to with names like Planet X, Nibiru, Hercolubus, and Nemesis, well, it's here. Or more accurately, they're back. And it's hanging over the inhabitants of the Earth, as if it were the sword of justice, ready to fall and execute a measure of judgment upon the world. A moment ago, I said, incredible things are appearing in the sky. Let's clarify the wording of that. For example, if we see a comet streaking across the sky, we might naturally refer to it with words like, we could see the comet streaking across the entire sky. But in fact, the comet is not at all in our sky, but further away, out in space. Or another example is the way the moon can look as if it's just up in the sky with the clouds. The same applies to our observations regarding this Planet X situation. While the things we're observing may look as though they're just up in the sky among the clouds, we're actually dealing with things that are further out in the solar system at large. Here we have a view of the beach at Puerto Vallarta. Do you see anything odd in that picture? I'm referring to this. Under normal circumstances, to have a sight like this in the sky and then suggest that maybe it's actually part of a huge planet that we're seeing, well, normally that would always be ludicrous. Going back over the past decades and onto centuries, a suggestion like that would have been absolutely laughable through all of that time, because this situation has not been present with us for centuries. But here, now, today, I am raising the observation and question, doesn't that look like a huge spherical thing there? Hold on a minute here. I just now raised a suggestion saying, doesn't that look like a huge spherical thing there? I must clarify that if it was simply this instance on its own, well, it would not have occurred to me as even a remote possibility of that being part of a huge spherical object. And certainly I would not have pointed it out as a detail of significance. It is only upon numerous other observations of the same thing from many different locations over a time span of a few years that I have come to where I would raise the observation of that having a semblance of being part of a huge spherical body. Let's overlay a perimeter line on that curve. Interesting how that causes the spherical aspect of that area within the perimeter to stand out. In fact, the way that a sphere looking like a planetary body jumps out so emphatically there makes it necessary for me to affirm that I have not added any effect or distortion to the picture, apart from overlaying a line alongside of the curve that is already there. Before going any further, we've got to address a certain troublesome aspect of this discussion. We're going to consider something that seems totally absurd, and when held up to the established facts of science and everything we know about the world around us, the observation that I'm going to point out looks utterly preposterous. I'm referring to the detail we've already mentioned, the apparent curve that can be seen spanning across a large portion of the sky and clouds. The implication we're interested in hangs on the proposition that these are a partial view of a planet whose size and proximity is such that only part of it can fit into our view. Obviously, this suggestion immediately qualifies as ridiculous on the grounds of so many glaring arguments. I mean, this proposal requires us to believe that right there is an unidentified planetary body. There's no mention of it on TV, radio, or the papers, no official announcements from NASA or other authoritative entities, and you'd think that we'd be having a flurry of amateur and even professional astronomers with their telescopes announcing the awesome sightings of this. But none of these evidences have come along to support the assertion suggested in my observations here. Now, another big demonstration of non-existent evidence that cannot be ignored is the absence of extreme gravitational disturbance, or the principles of gravitational influence that would be in force if there was a celestial body around our neighborhood, as depicted in this discussion. So, regarding gravitational influence, can you imagine what would be happening here on home planet Earth if there was a monster planet like that milling around in our space neighborhood? Just consider what our little moon does to the oceans and ground tides. The major point I need to get across here is, while I am compelled to consider this phenomenon, because of the preponderance of data giving substantial weight to the questions of it, at the same time, there are so many plain and obvious facts that forbid the thought of it. Any average person would be justified in criticizing and laughing at me, saying,
"Can you believe that lemon puff? He thinks there's big giant planets right up there over our heads, blocking out almost the whole sky. He must have been skipping school when they taught the basics of science and planets and asteroids and stuff. You know, basic stuff like gravity. If you drop a rock or a brick, it'll fall straight down and smash your foot if you don't get out of the way." What a dumbo.
And the cynical yet entertaining attacks could go on and on. Let's just look at a few different examples of this huge curve.
Don't you see this? And we're hiding.
Notice how dark that area is, while the time of day is about 3:30 in the afternoon. Impossible and ludicrous on the authority of a long list of scientific laws and facts. That we know are reliable and constant. But I also know
Don't you see this? And we're hiding.
this same appearance is happening all the time. I have video and photo captures of it from all around the world. 3 or 4 years ago, we were not having manifestations like this. But gradually, over the past few years, these situations have continued to increase, to the point of being even commonplace. And with that, the size of these huge spherical features has also been increasing steadily, to where now it's just unbelievably huge. Without some clear and solid data to support the premise upon which we would even dare to bring up this question, I wouldn't want to go near it in the first place, simply because of how dumb and preposterous the very idea must be. Initially, I wouldn't pay any attention to the suggestion that there could be a huge planet situated like that in our view, because it is just so contrary to all of what we know regarding the science of space, astrodynamics, and our solar system. But the good news is, there are a few additional scientific factors that can explain how these phenomena are indeed real and present. These factors demonstrate how you can actually have an extra planetary body here in the inner solar system without rocking our world with gravitational destruction. Moreover, there are some factors that would explain why countless independent astronomers have not been citing and reporting this. To outline those factors, we need to engage a dedicated examination of this. We'll take on that task in a coming discussion, but for the moment, in this present video, we're going to visit some other remarkable situations that demonstrate we have got something incredible occurring here in our solar system. Moving on to some other items of interest. We'll start by looking further at this same date and location that is up already. The time display shows it to be about 6 o'clock in the evening now. Notice this rounded feature here at center screen. Why is it so round like that? Is it just a coincidence? Perhaps, but it's quite a coincidence when an area of shading like this can conform so perfectly to the radius of a properly round area. We'll skip ahead now to the time point of about 6:40 in the evening. Here again we have the odd situation of a continuous curve object spanning the entire panoramic view. By about 6:45 in the evening, we arrive at an extraordinary event in progress that transpires over the next 30 minutes in this webcam footage. In order to get an accurate perspective on what we're seeing here, we need to know where the sun is in all of this. So to get our bearings, the first question is, what direction are we facing? And that is north-northwest. Sunrise occurs over to the right, in the east, of course. Thus, from this camera, we don't see the sunrise, as it is outside of this field of view. By the same token, you won't see the sunset from this view either, as it occurs over there on the left-hand side, again outside of the view range. The next question we need to ask is, what time is sunset for this date and location? Answer, 19:03, or 3 minutes past 7 in the evening. Well, hold on a minute then. The time display is showing it to be about 8 minutes past 7 right now. So, sunset was 5 minutes ago, or in other words, 5 minutes ago, the sun disappeared below the horizon. So, what's all this? Let's pin down a few observations. To begin with, once again, we've got visual on that huge curve impression that spans a large part of the sky. Notice that even though the specific border of the perimeter line loses definition in places, the overall larger site of a darker or different looking region within the curved shape is maintained. Backing up about 15 minutes, we have this inexplicable situation. What are these two areas? What is the light source? There are answers to those questions, and in fact, they've already been answered in our discussions. But further to that, to go into a discussion about any aspects of this, it invariably leads to me talking on and on and on. And, well, I don't think it's good to make these videos where you've got to hear me rambling nonstop forever. Let's just finish this part with a general conclusive observation. Personally, I'm not particularly concerned with trying to figure out every little answer of each unanswered thing that arises in this. In my view, there is one major issue or question over this whole affair, and that is, we can see absolutely that there is something major going on in our solar system right now. Let's move on to consider a most ominous and disturbing aspect of all this. This situation brewing out there is bringing with it a cataclysmic event that will lay a heavy hand of destruction on this earth. Essentially, what we have here is a complete solar system coming through the middle of our solar system. And turning to ancient sources of information, we find this thing was given the title the Destroyer, a name which appropriately describes the events from last time it was here. One place that I've provided an overview and an introduction to some of those valuable echoes from the past is in my video documentary titled About Planet X Part 1. We've touched upon the concept of the Destroyer and the effects that the visitation of this Planet X will have on the Earth in terms of a cataclysmic, destructive event. Obviously, there is a wide range of different ways that the Nemesis system passing through our neighborhood will affect the Earth. But for the moment, we'll put that general picture aside and single out just one aspect of the effects that this situation will bring upon the Earth, and that we will certainly experience as we go through this time. Wind. Strong wind. Imagine having entire weeks where it's just really windy. Multiple days at a time where the wind is unrelenting and powerful. Of course, gale force winds, hurricanes, and tornadoes are a natural part of life on Earth. We have all this even without any such thing as Planet X. However, among the various monstrous effects that the Nemesis system will generate and trigger on the Earth, powerful wind is one of the top most definite problems we will have to get through. There is a lot more that needs to be said about this aspect, but we'll have to cover that in a later discussion. For the moment, we've touched upon the fact of powerful wind being one of the faces of the multi-headed Hydra monster of destruction that will arise with the visitation of Planet X. Moving on, there is one big problem with this study, and that is, it's just about impossible to actually believe it. For example, consider this video segment that I've replayed a few times. During these playback repeats, did your sight happen to latch on to this? I mean, if I was to give my own personal unfettered reaction seeing this, it has to be just wow. We're looking at a round spherical body there, so what is it? I'm obviously raising the consideration that it is a celestial object. I'm sure that there are many who would not allow that hypothesis in any degree, and for good reason, because it's just so far-fetched, and there are so many solid grounds upon which we can strongly refute the assertion that that could be a planetary body right there. I could easily have adopted that view based on the science surrounding all this. However, there is also magnificent evidence declaring that you are absolutely right to notice and observe something like that in this particular time that we're living in, and to be able to realize it is, in fact, a celestial body. We move on now to a different event at another time and location. In terms of a stunning situation where you just happen to glance up at the clouds and next thing you know, your attention is hijacked by something that doesn't make sense because it absolutely looks like there are two suns in the sky. Well, we have video footage here from Jesse Thomas in Ohio, who recorded just such an event. Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. What have we got here? Now, isn't that peculiar? We've got two light sources there. If all we had was a still image, photo of this event, well, we wouldn't really be able to make much use at all of the whole thing. Because, frankly, a picture like that can easily be a Photoshop snipe hunt, whipped up by somebody who just wants to have a good laugh at all the people who are going to get all excited over what is actually just a hoax. So, the first thing we would simply have to have before any reliable contribution can be gained from this is that we would need footage of the event in video or digital camera. A still image on its own is simply insufficient. So, a huge thanks and acknowledgement goes out to Jesse Thomas for his excellent video recording of this event. A compelling and highly beneficial video showing the evening sun along with an additional celestial object that one way or another is radiating an intense field of light. Now, are we able to draw any conclusions, any decisive results from this footage? And the answer is yes. We can decisively understand that there are two bright celestial bodies visible there in the sky. We know that one of these, the one on the right, is the sun. The other object is a major anomaly. Upon careful observation and examination of the video record, there is sufficient unambiguous data to verify that this additional body of light is not a reflection, it's not a trick in the clouds, it's not a hoax. It is simply what it looks like from the very start, and that is an additional celestial body there. It could be argued that if this phenomena really was occurring, wouldn't there be a lot more people seeing it and a lot more reports of these sightings? And the answer is there actually are a lot of people seeing and reporting it. For example, let's look at the YouTube page where this video is posted. Most of the comments on this video are from people saying that they also have seen this. And the location of these sightings spans a lot of different states and countries. Let's read a few. Alice Winston says, "We saw them in Washington." Ali B. says, "I saw this in the UK around 2 weeks ago. I got my partner to come look, and they had sprayed the skies really heavily, but only over the area where the sun is. But you could see, shining through clearly, 2 suns." And on the next comment on this page, somebody says, "I have a video of the same thing in Mississippi." And somebody named Dan Rice says he saw 2 suns last Sunday at about 6 o'clock in the evening. Corey Lee tells us, "I just recorded one today in Michigan." He's referring to the event where you see 2 suns. We know that from the rest of his comment. He says you can only see it during sunsets or sunrises. We'll take a minute and look at a few more of these incidents where it appears to be that 2 suns are in the sky. But we'll try to be quick about it, so we'll just kind of zoom over these few more examples of this phenomena. Here's one that was captured on January 6th, 2020, from Texas.
Break, break, break.
So in this one, we have that bright object there, while over to the right, we also have the sun. In the picture on the left, there is something about the anomalous light body that is a valuable observation to our study. Let's watch this footage again to try and catch a clear view of this body. So there's the sun, and over to the left we have the anomalous light object. Notice how it looks as though there are 2 parts or 2 main objects. With that in view, have a look at this video clip from Morocco, recorded on February 3rd, 2020. Remarkably similar to the video from Texas, in this one from Morocco, we have the sun over there to the right, and over here on the left, a light source. With the sun over there, then what is this? And further, notice the configuration. It appears to be 2 objects or 2 main parts, just like the event cited a month earlier, practically on the other side of the world in Texas. Here is the video clip from Morocco.
السلام عليكم. اليوم 28 شهر 1 2020. على ما أظن، الله أعلم، كوكب طارق، كوكب نيبيرو.
Now, I don't recognize the language he is speaking there, but I presume it's Moroccan. And out of all the words he said, I understood only one, Nibiru. He says Nibiru in reference to the second light source that he is capturing on digital camera here.
كوكب طارق، كوكب نيبيرو.
Before moving on to another example, it is of value to remember the remarkable comparison between these two separate events we've observed. Let's look at another incident.
Можно было наблюдать сегодня в Москве сразу два.
Here we have an example that was broadcast on a Moscow television station.
Телекомпании «Эффект ложного солнца» называется
Now, I don't speak Russian, and so at first I had no idea what the presenter was saying. However, this was no obstacle because I have Anna, my Russian-speaking family member. She's from the Ukraine and speaks Russian as her native language. I asked Anna to listen through this and let me know what is said.
В Москве сразу два солнца появились над горизонтом в последние минуты перед закатом.
It turns out he is talking about those two shining celestial bodies, saying that it looks as if there are two suns on the Moscow horizon. He then repeats one of the popular explanations for how this happens, declaring that it's just an illusion, an effect caused by those pesky ice crystals. But look, there we have the sun on the horizon, plus an anomalous object shining over here.
Можно было наблюдать сегодня в Москве сразу два солнца появились над горизонтом в последние минуты перед закатом. Эту фотографию сделали сотрудники нашей телекомпании. Эффект ложного солнца называется паргелий.
The arrangement or configuration of this event in Moscow compares to another sighting captured by Jeffrey Smith in the state of Iowa.
So, is it just me, or are there two suns over here? What's going on? Try to explain this. This is Iowa in the morning, and that's definitely not a reflection over there, guys. So, just saying, when you think about it, I don't know what to say.
So, do you think that's a lens flare or a sundog? At this stage, we've looked at 6 different examples of this phenomenon. So, have we learned anything? Have we gained any solid ground to support the idea that, yes, indeed, there is something extraordinary present in front of our noses out there in our solar system? In my experience, that question can only be answered by each individual, according to their own appraisal or opinion of these potential evidences. Again, the question is, do these events where there are two celestial bodies in view yield proof or evidence of the situation that we see in them? Let's presume for a moment that what we see there is in fact correct. There is the sun and also an additional celestial body. Well, even with that, a lot of us will still be unable to reach a conclusion about it. In speculation that all of these examples we've looked at must somehow be just a mistake or an illusion. And only when it's roaring in the sky in our faces, only then will some people be able to believe what has been in front of our eyes already.